The B.R.A.T Show, inspiring every woman to be bold, relevant, addictive, and transformative.
Welcome to The B.R.A.T Show. I'm your host, KATHY BARTHEL, also known as Bratty Kathy. Today's guest is going to take us on an adventure. Executive book coach Helen Wilkie was born and brought up in Scotland. She spent the bulk of her adult life in Canada. And then in 2018, she shocked all her friends when she decided to move by herself to Argentina, where she plans to spend the rest of her life. As she says, Argentina is her lugar del mundo, her place in the world. I hope I've said that right, Helen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm delighted to be here.
You know, I'm dying to know, what was the response you got when you told people you were going to up and leave and go to Argentina?
Well, it was a mix. I mean, I've had those kind of reactions before from people, but there was a mix. And people, because I didn't just come here for the first time. I've been coming to Argentina for 6 months out of the year for the past 3 years before I came here. And then I decided, this is ridiculous. This is where I want to be. I'm coming. So people knew that I was absolutely besotted by Argentina. And so they weren't really surprised, but they were. Like, it's a big step. And I did, before I came back the last time to Canada, I was thinking about it constantly, 24 hours a day, thinking I must be mad. And I always came to Argentina in November, which is the beginning of the summer here. And that year, I also had planned a trip to Scotland to visit my family. And I had been talking to my brother, and I told him I was thinking about this. And he said, well, it doesn't really surprise me because you always light up whenever you talk about Argentina. So I said, but I haven't quite decided. So when I come in September, you can talk me through it, because my brother's very wise. So he said, all right. So then I had this moment of revelation. I may have told you this before, I'm not sure, but I kept thinking about it and you know, as I say, pondering 24 hours a day. And one day I had this realization. I thought, if I was in Argentina and I thought I could never see Canada again, I would be sad. But if I was in Canada and I thought I could never see Argentina again, I would be heartbroken. And so that was it. I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. So the next time I talked to my brother the next day, I said, it's done. The flight's booked one way. And it's done. And even he was a little shocked in the end.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And that question you asked yourself, that just brings it right down to the essential, right? I mean, that's, wow. Did that just sort of pop into your head, that thought?
It did. It just came into my head that yeah, I mean, the idea of never being able to come back here, it just made me cringe. And it was awful.
Visceral.
So I thought,
that
was visceral. Yeah. So that's my signal to myself, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, here you are in Argentina, loving it and so on. I can't help but think, Helen, what was that little bonny lass, you know, back in Scotland like? You know, were you this little girl who was like poring over, you know, playing with the globe and spinning it and saying, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, wanting to jump in the car to go on family trips? You know, who was that little girl? Were you that little girl?
No, not really. I mean, I think I was probably 18 before I went on a trip outside the British Isles.
Oh.
And when I was a student in university, I went to Spain because that was the only place that anybody could afford because it was cheap. Yeah. But no, I didn't see myself as a world traveler. And you know, funny thing, just yesterday, I was talking to an Argentine friend here, and I showed him my graduation photograph when I graduated from university when I was, I guess, 21.
Yeah.
And I said, I look so serious. And you know what he said? He said, no, you don't look serious. You look like a woman who knows what she wants. And you know what? I didn't. I had no no idea
So
what
it was a good photographer, maybe. He got you in the right
yeah,
moment?
must have caught it, yeah. But I really didn't. I mean, even when I finished university, I went into teaching. I taught in high school and I hated every minute of it. I don't know how I ended up there.
Interesting.
And so then I went to Canada, of course, and the idea of that was I was going for, it was an adventure.
Yeah.
And I'd gone to this dance in Glasgow, and I met this fellow called George, who had just come back from a year's contract in Canada. He was a carpenter. And he kept going on about how marvelous Canada was, and I should go because I would love it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, wow, that sounds really interesting. Maybe I could go for a year. So the next day I talked to my friend Elsa, who was my best friend at that time, and I talked her into coming too. And the idea was, we'll go for a year and we'll take 6 months to come home, and we'll come home via the Greek islands. And it was a marvelous master plan.
Yeah.
But life intervened, and we came and we both met our future husbands within weeks.
Wow.
So that changed the entire plan. So, I mean, that was, I really, I mean, coming to Canada was supposed to be this 1 year adventure, and it turned into my life, basically, where I lived most of my adult life until just recently.
Yeah.
So that wasn't travel.
Yeah.
That was a move. It wasn't
Yeah.
really. And even to this day, I haven't done a tremendous amount of traveling. And I seem to have a lot of friends who have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got friends that have traveled to 50 odd countries. And
wow.
Oh, yes, I lived in Germany for 3 months. And oh, yeah, when we were living in China, and I always think that I feel like the country cousin because I haven't actually traveled that much.
Yeah.
It's just I traveled here and I sort of come to an exotic place to stay.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, you know, when I look at pictures of Scotland, there's something, you know, it's places we don't know, right? That we haven't been that have that exotic feel.
Yes.
But when I think of you as a little girl, like, were you shy? Were you the little girl who kind of was the leader, or were you the little girl who was sort of going along with the group? Like, what were you like that way?
I was not a brat. I really wasn't, Kathy. I mean, if you knew how I followed the rules. I did as I was told. That's how I ended up teaching without wanting to, because, you know, they brought in advisors and so on. I remember I thought I wanted to be a vet. And my mother said to me, that's ridiculous. You don't want to be a vet. You just think it's all about cute little puppy dogs. But it's also about getting called out in the middle of the night by farmers to see about cows. You don't want to be a vet. So I thought, well, okay, I guess not. And then I thought I wanted to be a reporter. And my mother said, that's ridiculous. You don't want to be a reporter. You just think it's like Lois Lane, you know, in the Superman stories. You don't want to be a vet. My mother told me what I was supposed to be thinking, and I just went along with it. I mean, when I think about it now, I'd have been the world's worst reporter, but still.
But why? You're a great editor, and you must be great on getting the facts.
I know, but I'm very, like, asking nosy questions is not my thing. Like, sometimes when I hear reporters asking questions, I cringe inside.
Yes.
So I'd not have been a good reporter. But still, I mean, I could have tried, but I did what I was told.
Yes.
That's what I was. And the idea when I came to Canada for that year, it was fun. My parents they didn't object to it or anything, but Kathy, if they had, I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have gone because that's who I was. I was totally different.
Yeah.
When I was young.
You know what I find interesting? Yeah, I was the kid who always wanted to be an actress. And I learned from parents, probably my dad, that was a bad thing. You'll become terribly spoiled and snobby and arrogant, or you'll starve. So who wanted to starve or be an arrogant so-and-so? So of course, same thing. I didn't. But, you know, what is interesting to me is that, you know, there are all these things inside us, including who we really are. In other words, the thing that really lights us up. And this is one of the things that brats have in common, is that they are transformative. Now, that is typically we think of in terms of, you know, our clients. You create transformation for your clients, which I'm sure you do with the clients whose books you coach on, and so on. And we also transform the world in some way, whatever it is that we're doing in our business and however that impacts the world around us. but we also transform personally. And this is the journey of being a brat. There's a misconception that we pop out of the womb ready to go and, we're always on, but that's not necessarily the case. There's
No,
the time,
it wasn't me, no.
right? Yeah. And then when I think about, you and I were talking, having a chat prior to recording this episode, and you mentioned something, we were talking about Argentina, and you said, I became more of myself after I came here. And that just stuck in my mind. It was so succinctly, beautifully said. And I'm really curious if you can go a little deeper into that. How did you become more of yourself when you got there?
Well, part of it comes from my history, because I was married for 41 years to my soulmate. And we had a great marriage, and we had a very close relationship. But Felix was 12 years older than me. And that probably had something to do with it. But he also had a very strong personality. And I was nuts about him, Kathy. So I kind of just went along.
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy to do it. I mean, I was very happy for all those years.
Yeah.
After he died, I was it was suddenly me. Like, there was nobody else to consider.
Yeah.
And when I thought the first time I went on a trip by myself, I just went to Montreal for a couple of days. But it was, I think I'll go to Montreal. And there was nobody to consult. I just up and went. And I realized that this was now the only good thing about being a widow, is that I could really do whatever I wanted, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I started to do a small amount of traveling, and here and there, like mostly to the States for a few days here and there. In 2013, I was speaking at a conference, and over breakfast, I met these two women who coincidentally had both just come back from Buenos Aires. And the more they talked about it, the more I thought, that sounds really nice. I'd like to go there. So I just went home from the weekend and got online and booked it. I booked a flight, I booked a hotel, and that was it. And I did get pushback from people on that I was going on my own to South America, because people have this concept of South America, that it's a dangerous place, and the Cisco Kid and all but coming down out of the hills. It's crazy. It's not like that at all. Well, I guess it is in some parts, but certainly not here.
Yeah.
And but I thought, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going anyway. And as soon as I landed here, I knew there was something special for me about this place. It just felt different and wonderful. And I came back again that same year, because a friend of mine who lived in Scotland had said she would meet me here. And so we came back again for a second time. And I knew then, I thought, no, it's not going to, I can't just come for a couple of weeks. That's not going to cut it here. I need more. So
I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, go ahead and click like. And while you're there, click the subscribe button as well, so you don't miss another episode. Now let's get back to the show.
There was nobody here to consider in terms of what I wanted to do, or who I wanted to do it with, or where I wanted to do it. And so I just did what I wanted to do. And also, it never occurred to me to think that I was too old for anything.
Yeah.
Whereas in Canada and in Scotland, there was a little bit of that. But here there isn't. And it's, I took up tango dancing, as you know, and that's, when I think about that, at my age, back in Canada or in Scotland, I don't think that would have been on the cards. But it was available here, and there was nothing standing in my way. And that's what I mean by saying I became more of myself, because I'll tell you a story that happened just this weekend. And this is kind of me. This is just me.
Yeah.
We've been locked down, and well, we're not locked down right now, but the pandemic has been with us for 10 months or something now. So there's no tango.
Yeah.
And you can't do social distancing when you're dancing tango. So I went with two girlfriends on Sunday afternoon to a local cafe here. And it's a big, huge terrace, and it's a great place for people watching.
Yeah.
And on summer afternoon. And quite often there's a couple there dancing tango, like under this big tree. And then they come round and they collect money for dancing.
Yeah.
So we sat and watched them for a little while. And then the girl comes around with the hat to ask for money. And on a total impulse, without thinking about it, I said to her, could I dance with him, with your partner? And she said, well, of course, Senora, but you must wear your masks. I said, sure. So I put the mask on, Kathy. I get up to dance with this man. I was wearing totally the wrong clothes. I had on a long skirt, which gets in your way when you're dancing tango. And I had on my ugly, clunky walking sandals. But I didn't care. It was an impulse. And I got up and I did it. And it just felt so good. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes because I hadn't danced for so long, but it just felt so good to be doing it again. And that's kind of one of the things, like before I came here, I didn't really do those things. I would always think things through. But here, I don't. I want to do it. I do it.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting about being, I don't know, called to a place. Like I always think, you know, something that I call spirit of place. You know, the feel of Scotland, the spirit of Scotland is different than Canada, is different than Argentina. And I wonder if, you know, we're all a mix of things, of course. And so in terms of elements of our character and our personality. So I wonder if, at different times in our lives, perhaps, you know, we're called to certain places that, you know, when you first came from Scotland to Canada, with all the circumstances around that, it wouldn't have made any sense for you to go to Argentina then.
Right.
But, you know, like I wonder, what I'm curious about is what it is in us, the complexity of us as human beings and as brats that, you know, as I say, we're not all one thing. So there's a real, I feel, and I don't know, I'm quite probably wrong, but I feel a soulfulness about Scotland when I see that countryside, that intensity, a different intensity than Argentina. Do you think there is something about that Argentina kind of spoke to some aspect of you that was ready to be more free, that was ready to embrace
it could be
something different?
It could be that Felix died 6 years before I came here for the first time. So I'd had those 6 years to be on my own.
Yeah.
But I think that coming here I remember sitting, I'll tell you this story. This is maybe a little weird, but it's true. Soon after I came here for the first time, and I was just on holiday, I was sitting on a Sunday afternoon having a coffee in this same place where I danced tango on Sunday. And I was by myself, and Buenos Aires is called the Paris of South America. It's got a lot of European feel to it, tremendous Italian influence. And it's quite European. It's got palm trees and that, but it's still European. And in some ways it reminded me of Lisbon because Felix was from Portugal. And so we had been to Portugal many times. And in some ways it reminded me of Lisbon. But I was sitting in this chair up at La Biela, just looking around me, and I'm by myself. And I was thinking, I thought about it being like Lisbon, and therefore I thought of Felix. And usually I could always almost conjure him up at that point. But that day, I couldn't. He just wasn't there. And I remember thinking at the time, Buenos Aires is mine. Just mine. No influence from anybody, no family ties, nothing. Just beautiful Buenos Aires. It was just mine. And that from that moment, it was magical.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that I've been thinking prior to our doing the show today, is this sense of your spirit kind of twinning in a way with the spirit of Buenos Aires. There's like a connection.
Yes.
It seems to me, and I may be totally wrong from where I sit, but it seems like...
That's what lugar nel mundo means, my place in the world. Yeah.
So at a deeper level, obviously, than just geographically, like a rootedness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What is a chica? And what is it like to be called it? What is that about?
Oh, I should talk about that because this is another thing about being here.
Yeah.
Chica just means girl. Chica is the word for a girl. Yeah. And so in Canada, you know, there's this whole thing about, I'm not a girl, I'm a woman. One of my clients wrote a book called Call Me a Woman. And well, you know, I don't have to go into that. But here, we're all chicas. And we don't care because the guys are chicos.
Okay.
Even if they're 75, they're still chicos.
Yeah.
And I kind of like being called a chica. You know, sometimes, like if I go out with my girlfriends and I'm sitting and a waiter comes up to us, he'll say, "Hola, chicas. Hello, girls."
Yeah.
Nobody takes offense at that here. I mean, listen, I like being called a girl here because it fits with just the whole, you know, and Argentine men are very appreciative of women, and they don't seem to look at you and see somebody of a certain age. You know, it's not unusual for me to be walking down the street and coming towards me to be a man who's maybe sometimes even like in the 30s.
Yeah.
And they'll come towards you and they'll look at you and they'll say, "How beautiful." And then, you know, I'll take that. Even
I
if
would
it's
take that.
nonsense, I will still take it. So, hey, you want to call me a chica? Call me a chica.
I love it. Well, it also seems to just be just an unencumbered kind of feeling, right? Just like, this is essentially me. I'm female and you're a guy. And that's just kind of elemental and not fussy, right? Not weighted down.
It's also circumstantial. I mean, if I'm dealing with a client, if I'm in the boardroom, for example, I'm dealing with a client, then I'm not a girl.
Yeah.
Then I'm a woman. I'm a professional woman, and it's a different thing entirely. But here, as soon as I step outside,
Love it. Love it. So you mentioned having worn those slippers the other day when you were dancing, and I've always wondered, like, could I, if I wanted to practice, you know, we're in the pandemic, and if I wanted to kind of practice in the living room to a video, do I have to, you know, order special shoes? Like, or are they just, because they look like...
not just to practice with. The best way to practice on your own. Yeah. Oh, if you've got carpet, it's very difficult. But I have wood floors, and the best way is just to wear socks because you can pivot.
Okay.
It's difficult on carpet. And it's difficult with the wrong shoes to do tango because you pivot a lot. And if you pivot and you don't all go around, you can hurt your knees.
Oh,
you can injure yourself. So So tango shoes are specially built, and the soles of them are meant to slide.
Yeah, because I've seen you in videos like having gorgeous shoes.
I've got 3 pairs that I brought to show you.
Yay! So. Oh my goodness. Those are gorgeous. So what is the base? Is the base like, it looks like a regular shoe base. It's not suede.
Well, these are quite old. I've had these for quite a while. When you get them, they usually have kind of a suede finish.
Okay.
They're always covered with this plastic that you have to peel off, and you never wear these outside. Okay. Never wear them outside. You have to take care of them. And if you wore them outside and you picked up a piece of dust, and then you went to the milonga, which is where you go to dance, you could scratch the floor and then they get hysterical.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And again, you could maybe injure yourself, right?
You could.
Look at these. Wow. Are they newer or?
No, they're not new. They're 9 centimeters high. And this is interesting. I've got this piece of stuff on here because during the pandemic, a couple of us broke the rules one time, and we danced in my friend's apartment, and there was just a couple of us.
Yeah.
But she said, "I don't want you dancing on my floor." So she had these.
Oh, yeah. Almost like what you'd put on the bottom of a chair leg.
Yeah. But they're ugly. I'm taking them off. Yeah. But these ones are my favorites. These are my favorites.
Wow.
They tie around your ankle.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Instead of hooker shoes, to be honest. But I love them. I absolutely love them.
Well, you know what?
I think about these shoes is these ones are relatively new, so you maybe still can see that.
Yeah.
They're also padded.
Okay.
And there's a reinforcement in the structure here. You can't dance tango in just high-heeled shoes.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I have these things. These are sort of my kind of pride and joy in a way. But, you know, but I mean, they're hard. They're like, there's no give.
They're not tango shoes.
No.
Yeah.
So is there, can you push
And
that? So is there a, can you show me the flex? Yeah, there's some, yeah.
But it's also, I don't know what it is, but it's about the construction, which is why they're very expensive. But
Those are beautiful.
yeah, the interesting thing, and funnily enough, I heard somebody on YouTube say this thing I've been saying all along, and people who don't dance don't get this.
What's
but
that?
I can't walk in these, but I can dance in them.
Huh.
So sometimes when you go dancing and somebody asks you to dance, the walk from where you're sitting out onto the edge of the dance floor is more difficult than once the music starts and you start to dance. And it's not just because you forget, it's the movement of your feet. And that's what tango shoes are built for.
Yeah, they're built to move in, right? To have some, not just
movement and the pivoting. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for that show and tell. 3 pairs. I love it.
That's just a small selection.
I'll bet it is. Oh my goodness. That's kind of something that you almost need to insure, as well as perhaps your legs for tango.
Well, the thing is, because we're not dancing right now, I can't do this, but I have a little tradition that I started last year, that whenever I get a new client, I buy a new pair of tango shoes. And then I take a photograph of them and I send them to the client and I say, these are the KATHY BARTHEL tango shoes. I had this client in Iowa, and he wrote and he said, never heard of tango or anything. He said, well, those are some great shoes. Not that I would know the difference between tango shoes and any other kind, but it makes me happy to know that this boy from Iowa has an investment in some beautiful tango shoes in Buenos Aires.
I love it. And I love how you pulled it all together. It's because this is it, what we were saying before, right? It's all the aspects of us as complex individuals. And one can be a fabulous executive book coach and also be an aficionado of tango and brilliant on the dance floor and living in Buenos Aires and having come from Scotland. You know, it's, this is the thing, right? It's just, about what I love about you, Helen, and your story is that you have been true to who you are at any particular point, and particularly with this move, because I can only imagine, even in that moment when you got the clarity and the aha, still that time where you're thinking, wow, I'm actually finally packing up and I've really made that decision. I'm
out of my freaking mind.
What's that?
I'm out of my freaking mind. There was a few of those moments, I have to say. Yeah.
But the thing is, you did it, and like we say, it's like your spirit and Argentina's spirit. It's like it fits. It's right.
Yeah.
And that is so inspirational, and it's been so much fun to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Kathy. I can talk about Argentina until you beg me to stop.
Oh, I doubt that I ever will. Where can people find out more about your work, about anything else around?
Well, my work now is I don't do speaking anymore, which I used to do, as you know, that's how we met. But most of my work is in executive book coaching. So I help senior business people to get their books written, books that they've often been talking about for years. And you can find the information at theexecutivesbookcoach.com. theexecutivesbookcoach.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think you must be the most interesting, unique executive book coach there is. If this is what you need, guys, just check in with Helen.
Come on down.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been so great to have you.
Thank you, Kathy. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the interview, click like and subscribe. And share this interview with any brat that you know. And don't forget to ring the bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we put out new content. See you soon.